What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for another episode here on Rivals and Adversaries, our buddy build we're doing with Joe over at Mad Genius Productions. He's building the MiG-15, I'm building the F-86 Sabre, so let's go ahead and dive in and check out the kit. I showed you guys kind of the basic boxing of it last episode. This is a great looking model. I can't wait to go ahead and build it. So today we're going to go ahead and do just that. We're going to jump in. Now I did pick up a set of photo etch right here from Edward. I got these at a real steal online, and I got to tell you, the only real reason I got these was purely for the seat. The seat in the kit doesn't look right to me. It looks too thick. It looks kind of out of scale. So I figured the photo etch seat would be much better. So I went ahead and I picked up the set right here, and I'm hoping that that is going to be an improvement. Luckily, we also have the instrument panel we can use, and we have, of course, side consoles and levers and whatnot. So we can actually spruce up the cockpit quite a bit, but I really only got this for the seat. So hopefully it's an improvement. We're going to go ahead though and jump in here. We're going to start building the seat. I've got some of the parts and pieces here laid out. I've been looking over things and kind of trying to figure out a good way to attack this. I'm not really a huge fan of photo etch, typically because they're just so tiny. They take so much work to go ahead and get installed. Sometimes they just don't really do the trick for me. But you know what? We're going to try them out this time. We've got everything we need. We've got some super glue. We've got some X-Acto knives. We're going to go ahead and just dig into this, start building that seat, and hopefully this is an improvement over what comes in the kit. So let's go ahead and get it started, guys. Let's have some fun. Let's build up a seat. Alright guys, so we are back and we've actually built up the main portion of the PE seat. So I want to go ahead and show you guys the differences between the PE seat and the actual kit seat. And you can see them right here. The kit seat isn't terrible, but it's also not great. I much prefer the seat here in the photo etch. I think it looks much better. It's a lot thinner, it's a lot more in scale. We did have to scratch build that back seating plate right there. We used just some plain old styrene, but otherwise I think it's far better looking and a lot more detail. I think mission accomplished. Now I wanted to go ahead and jump in here also to the cockpit tub. Now they want me to remove a lot of the detail, and to be honest, I really don't want to do that. I think most of the detail that we have here in the cockpit is actually very decent. I don't see a need to go ahead and scrape it all off to go ahead and glue down some photo etch. Instead, what I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to leave the details here in the actual cockpit that comes out of the kit, and I'm going to use a photo etch just to kind of augment that detail. So I'll add in some switches, I'll add in a couple of levers, couple of dials, and then I'll add in some of the side plates there that are photo etch. I think that'll really liven up the cockpit quite a bit. Of course, that does mean I'm going to have to remove some of the detail, mostly here at the bottom of the cockpit floor where the seat would normally plug into it. There's a locating tab there, there's some raised footwells and whatnot, so we're going to go ahead and take that all off just so we can use our own photo etch seat and glue that down eventually to the bottom of the cockpit floor. I'm not going to put it in just quite yet because I do want to go ahead and maybe add in some wiring, want to add in a couple extra details. I think having the seat in there would probably be in the way, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut out a lot of that ground detail and we'll leave the consoles alone. So the first thing I want to go ahead and do now that we have everything kind of sanded down is install some of these plates that are just right there on the left side of the cockpit wall. Let's go ahead and jump into that second time lapse, guys. Continue working there on the cockpit tub, get all the parts and pieces glued into place, and see how it comes out on the other side. Let's do it, guys. Let's keep pushing on. All right, everybody, we are back. And I got to tell you, the photo etch parts have really added a bit of extra detail there in the cockpit, and I'm absolutely digging it. I think they're great little additions there. Super happy about it. We're just going to go ahead and add in a couple of extra parts and pieces, like the throttle, for example. We need to go ahead and add that in. And unfortunately, as does happen with most of my builds, I cut that part off the sprue and it shot off somewhere, and I have no idea where it went. So instead of worrying about it, I'm going to go ahead and just scratch build something out of my spares box. That'll be perfectly fine. It's going to be at least representative of what was in there originally, and we're going to move on from there. I also have a PE lever that I can add in there as well. It's not necessarily the easiest of tasks. They're so tiny. It's just always such a hassle to get these little levers in, but I think it's going to really help the area. Plus, since I lost the other part, I might as well just try to add in a little bit more detail. I'm also going to go ahead and build up the tailpipe, and that's one of the areas where I'm a little bit concerned because I've looked at a couple of pictures of what the tail cone looks like on an actual F-86 and doesn't necessarily look like what we have here in the kit. Of course, first things first, guys, let's go ahead and build up the rear part of the engine, and we're just going to glue that together with some extra thin Tamiya, and then we'll go ahead and test fit it into the model, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So now that we have that glued, as you can see, we can go ahead and put this here where it's supposed to go in one of the locating pinholes right there. And there is actually quite a large gap between the end of this tailpipe and the actual end of the fuselage. And you can look up inside there and you will see an opening and you will see some space. So I might need to go ahead and do something to fix that. I'm not really sure how though, but there's gotta be a way to go ahead and maybe add in some plasticard, maybe cut this and like move it forward a little bit, or I guess move it backward a little bit, depending on how you're looking at it, just so that it kind of closes up that gap a little bit more. If I can leave the rest of the engine out and just blank off the end of this tube, that'll not only lighten up the rear of the aircraft just a little bit, so it won't be a tail dragger necessarily, but it'll also allow me the wiggle room that I have that I can shift this kind of backwards and close off that gap. Overall though, I think the cockpit is looking great. We're just going to go ahead and move on from there next episode and add in some more wires and some more detailing there, but I think overall it's a really good looking little model. So you can see here on a close-up, we've got the photo etched little areas that we've added in, those little stand-up, I guess, panels of some sort. We've got the side console detail, and then if we add the chair in there, it sits right about here, and I think it looks pretty cool. Again, it's going to do a whole lot more detail when I go ahead and paint it and I dry brush things and get it looking a little bit better, but I think it's an actually really nice improvement. This white piece of plastic right here, I actually just cut that, folded it. The instructions wanted me to destroy the kit part, take the backing of that and stick it onto this. I didn't like the sound of that, so I just made my own out of plasticard, and I think that's a little bit better way to go about it. It's a little thinner, it looks more in scale, and it doesn't require a whole bunch of cutting and sanding. You never know, I might be able to use that seat for another project, maybe later on, or maybe parts and pieces of it. So keep your spares, guys. It's a good idea. But I think this is actually a really nice looking cockpit. We're going to move on next episode, do a little bit more work on that, add in the instrument panel and the flight control stick, the rudder pedals, all that good stuff. And then I think we're ready for paint and we can close up the fuselage and move on from there. Next episode, we'll be back and I'm going to go ahead and start doing a little bit more detail work, maybe get the instrument panel ready to go, glue that all in, maybe do a little bit of priming. I know I have to work out what colors the cockpit would be, but I think we have an idea. So until our next episode, guys, make sure to go check out Joe's build. He's building that MiG-15. I know he's going to do a bang up job on that. Until then, guys, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on episode 3 for Rivals and Adversaries here on Ben Builds. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon.